Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started soon as people are coming in from the waiting room. Again, welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in a little bit. People are still coming in through the waiting room. We're really glad you're able to join us. We'll get started in a minute. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started soon. We're just waiting a few more people coming into the waiting room. Get started in a moment. We're so glad you were able to join us.
All right, Mary, I think we're ready to get started.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you all here, and thank you so much for deciding to attend the webinar. We're really looking forward to working together and sharing our information with you. My name is Vanessa Morest. I'm the Vice President of Academic Affairs and Provost of SUNY Westchester Community College, and also one of the PIs on this grant. The grant that's funding this, which is the New York HSI Hub. So the purpose of the hub is really to create a network and bring together colleges in the New York metropolitan area that are interested in and applying for NSF grants. The overarching goal is really to help and support the strengthening of STEM education throughout the New York area, especially as it relates to the community colleges and the SUNY and CUNY systems. So we're thrilled to have you all here. We are partnered with Arizona State University, and so they are providing some of the technical support on our grant. This webinar comes at, I think, a really critical time as there's a lot happening at the federal level. And one of the benefits we see in having this hub grant here at SUNY Westchester is that we are able to try to stay on top of the developments and share them out with you all in and around our network. So very happy to say that we have 3 presenters today who will each provide a different perspective on grant writing. The first is Dr. Lori Miller McNeil, who's one of our very own here at Westchester. She's the Director of Institutional Advancement. And second, we'll have Nithya Raman, Program Manager, and Anna Taguma Gallegos, who is the Associate Director of Research, both from the Center for Broadening Participation in STEM at Arizona State University. And last but not least, we'll have NSF ATE Pam Silvers, presenting on NSF ATE, Pamela Silvers, who's the Principal Investigator of the Mentor Connect initiative. So at this point, we would like to give you an opportunity to complete a poll, telling us what your role is. You've had a moment to get to know us, and so if you could just click and identify your role. All right. Well, thank you very much. So this is great. We have a good distribution of people serving in different roles. A major focus of our HSI STEM Hub is really on supporting faculty. So I'm delighted that nearly half of the participants are faculty. But of course, our role as administrators is to support our faculty. So I'm glad to see we've got some administrators and grant professionals with us. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lori Miller McNeil.
Wonderful. Well, we're so glad you're here, and I'm really pleased to be able to share this information with you about NSF funding opportunities that are really special to community colleges. I think one of the things that we all share as community colleges is that we're very focused on student success for our students, providing opportunity for our students, and building capacity at our institutions. And at the same time, we tend to be very under-resourced. So it's really important for those of us who work in this space when we want to get funding for STEM, to know where we're likely to be successful and how to approach it. And that's what this project is about, and that's really what this presentation is about. So what's the National Science Foundation? What do you need to know? It's an independent federal agency that supports science and engineering in all 50 states and territories. It really invests in the research infrastructure and supporting the research enterprise that also supports national and economic security. It really helps translate new technologies for the marketplace. It helps expand the frontiers of STEM discovery and really creates opportunities for people to move into STEM careers and to continue to fund and fuel the STEM enterprise. Last year, NSF received over $9 billion in funds, and over 93% of those funds went directly to support STEM research, education, and related activities. There were over 1.9 thousand institutions that received funding last year, and it's our hope that we help you inch forward a little bit closer to being one of those institutions. We can go to the next slide. So how is NSF organized? It has directorates, and each of these directorates is really organized around research in particular STEM areas like bio, computer information science, math, engineering. The directorate that's most of interest to community colleges is EDU, the Directorate for STEM Education, and in particular, the Division of Undergraduate Education. And within the Division of Undergraduate Education, there's two program areas that are of particular interest to community colleges: ATE and IUSE. ATE is Advanced Technological Education, and Pam Silvers, our colleague from Mentor Connect, is going to talk about those. And IUSE, Improving Undergraduate STEM Education, and our colleagues Anna and Nithya from ASU Center for Broadening Participation in STEM are going to focus on those grants. Let's go to the next slide. So there have been a lot of changes that have taken place at NSF. What do you need to know? One of the big things that's changed is we just talked about those directorates that were focused on various research areas. A new development at NSF is that they've now identified these priority areas that are going to be key in every directorate and across the directorates. And those priority areas are artificial intelligence, quantum information science, biotechnology, nuclear energy, and translational science. Translational science is bridging the gap between research and practical applications. And I'm going to talk in a minute about an opportunity, 3 opportunities that are open in artificial intelligence right now. There's also a lot of organizational and staff restructuring taking place at NSF, new executive orders and oversight that's affecting the agency. And perhaps most important for community colleges, there are proposed reductions in broader impact initiatives. There's new guidance restricting how broadening participation or equity-oriented activities can be described. And what's really important is that unless you're working in a program area that specifically has protected traits in the program solicitation, the programs and services and opportunities and research that you do needs to be open to and available to all Americans. Let's go to the next slide. So this is your cheat sheet for opportunities that are available to community colleges. And when you get the slide deck, you're going to be able to go right to this and really start doing your research on different opportunities. But for those of you who are new to NSF funding, let me just describe what I have in each of the columns. So at the very top, across the blue bar there, I have the program name. And as you go down that column, you're going to see the abbreviations for each of the program areas. And we'll talk a little bit more about those. The very next column is the NSF solicitation. This is the most important information you can have when you're interested in pursuing an NSF grant. Everything that you need to know is in that solicitation. No matter how great the idea is that you have, if you are not responding specifically to what's in that solicitation, you're not going to get funded. So each one of those areas has got a special number. Those numbers change over time as they update the solicitations. And I also have the due dates there, but when you go to the solicitation, it's a hard link and you'll be able to go right to the solicitation and look it up. The third column is the purpose. I'm going to highlight what those are. And then the very last column are the community college STEM degrees that NSF will fund. Most of the opportunities that are available to community colleges are actually most of the funding is going to the AS STEM, and for community colleges, it would be STEM transfer degrees and kind of undergraduate research. It's really about building the pipeline of people who go into STEM and do research in STEM. There's one area, the ATE, that's really much more focused on STEM workforce. And Pam Silvers is going to talk a little bit more about those. So let me highlight those 2 that are in yellow. ATE is really focused on the AAS, Applied STEM and Technician Education degrees, those terminal CTE degrees. And it's really about building the workforce pathway to STEM programs and STEM degrees. The IUSE is different. That's really focused on STEM transfer degrees and on undergraduate research and the AS degrees. It's really building the career pipeline of folks that would go into STEM. And Anna and Nithya are going to talk more about those. Let me highlight the 4 that are in orange, just in case your institution might be interested in these opportunities. So the first one up is IUSE ITYC NSF 23584. That's innovation in 2-year colleges. That's really about if you have an innovation that would go across STEM disciplines or might be college-wide, where you're really looking to build capacity and improve student outcomes, and it's building on research, the IUSE ITYC might be of interest to your campus. Again, that one focuses on the AS and STEM transfer degrees. The next one that I wanted to highlight is the IUSE PFE RED. That's the professional formation of engineers revolutionizing engineering departments. That opportunity is really focused on transforming what the first year of engineering education looks like, having it be much more hands-on, much more based in professional skills and practice, much more applied learning. So your campus might have a wonderful idea building on other research that other campuses could benefit from that is related to engineering education. You might want to take a look at that opportunity. The third one that I want to highlight here is STEM, and that is scholarship in STEM. Most of these grants do not provide scholarships for students, but STEM is an area where you can really provide additional resources to help support students pursuing STEM pathways. And it might be a really good area to pair with other STEM developments that you're doing on your campus so that you can do student support as well as program support. And STEM also provides some program support, but it's primarily a student scholarship initiative. The last opportunity here that I want to draw your attention to is one that I just mentioned about artificial intelligence. And this is directly related to a new executive order prioritizing artificial intelligence education for K-12. And there's 3 opportunities here. If you have an existing excellent or ATE grant in artificial intelligence or computer science, you can apply for supplemental funding of 20% and provide outreach and do new programs related to K-12, helping high school students learn about artificial intelligence and prepare for the artificial intelligence workforce. Similarly, with NSF 25035, if you already have funding in DRK-12, the Division of Research and Learning for K-12, in computer information systems or in artificial intelligence, you can also apply for a supplemental award. Those are all due in December. They're very close due dates, by the way. The last one is NSF 25545, and that's the division of K-12, Division of Research and Learning, and that one is for formal and informal learning in artificial intelligence. So those are ways in which those priorities that I just talked about are beginning to show themselves in solicitation opportunities. So this is your cheat sheet. You can go back to it anytime and go ahead and do research on the hard links. All right, we can go to the next slide. So what are some tips for community colleges that want to do this work? NSF funding is really different than U.S. Education Department or U.S. Department of Labor funding. When we're applying for a U.S. Department of Education grant, we're usually we're using research and we're validating our approach by using research. But what we're really trying to do is we're trying to move student success for a great number of students, improving retention, graduation rates, transfer rates, academic success rates. We're using research, but we're trying to make an impact on our institutions. With an NSF grant, it's really different. It's almost like a flipped model. NSF wants students to improve. What they want your research project to do is to help build the field, to help others understand how can we collectively move forward? What are better teaching and learning methods? What are better ways for students to learn certain subject areas? And that's the concept of intellectual merit. It's what's the research evidence? What research are you building on? And how are you contributing to research? A little less about our students in particular, and much more about how are you advancing research? How are you advancing the STEM enterprise? The other category within NSF that's really important is this concept of broadening participation. Not only how are we increasing research and building research, but how are we creating opportunities for more people to go into STEM and be more successful? When you think about NSF and you think about these different program areas, they're all quite different from one another. Each one is its own culture. I've done work in ATE, IUSE, and DRK-12, and they're each like different cultures. They really have different requirements. So it's really important to get to know those solicitations and to kind of get to know the culture and the priorities of each one of these programs. And they do change over time as the priorities change. What we recommend is that you start with an ATE or an IUSE grant and find a mentoring program like Mentor Connect, or if you're in the SUNY CUNY hub, come join the New York HSI STEM Hub in our next cohort. And another really good way to get started is to consider applying for a planning conference or workshop grant. Those are easier ways to enter the NSF space and get familiar with the requirements and get to know the program officers and the program areas and the priorities. The other tips I really want to leave you with are make sure that you're reading that NSF solicitation very carefully. As I said, no matter how good your idea is, if you're not responding to that, there's no way you're going to get funded. Look at the PAPPG. There's a hard link there, but that's the NSF Proposals and Policies Guide. And what that guide does is it gives you everything you need to do and breaks down what you need to know to apply for a grant, what you need to do to operate your grant and implement your grant, and how you need to report, and even how you need to close down your grant and how you approach different things like budget modifications. One of the other ways that NSF is really awesome is that if you have an idea and you've done your research, you could use that NSF award research, reach out to other funded projects and PIs, but you can also reach out to the program officer with a question and get some guidance. We've done that with our proposals, and it's been extremely helpful. NSF website has so much information available. You can research other awards. You can look at priorities. You can look at their research areas. Very often they have documents that provide a lot of research on the topic that you're interested in that you can use. You can also volunteer as a reviewer for NSF. That'll be very helpful. And then think about applying to a mentoring program. We have hard links here to Mentor Connect, the New York HSI STEM Hub, and ASU's Center for Broadening Participation in STEM has a wonderful repository of information available to you that you can also access. All right, we can go to the next slide. So we're so glad that you're here. I'm wondering, what's your experience with NSF grants? Could we bring up that poll now, Sal? Is it aspirational? You're interested, but you haven't even approached any of this yet? Is it exploratory? Maybe you've started to do a little research, but you haven't really started to write a proposal yet. Maybe you applied and weren't funded, or you applied and were funded. Or maybe you worked as a PI or a co-PI on an NSF grant, but you've never really written one yourself. Honestly, I've been all of those. So, it's great. And we just want to say that, by working together, okay, so this is great. So a lot of you are aspirational, exploratory, you have some experience, but you're all new to applying. That's wonderful, because our goal, we're all in this together as community colleges. So, we all learn from each other. And as each one of us gets funded, we kind of layer it up and help the other one to get funded. So that's really our purpose today. So we're really glad that you're all here. And Anna and Nithya are going to be really helpful in helping you understand how your institution might apply for the IUSE grant. And then Pam Civils will be really helpful in helping you understand how you might apply for an ATE grant. All right, that's great. Anna and Nithya?
Hi everyone, my name is Nithya Raman. I will be presenting with my colleague Anna, and we'll be talking a little bit about the IUSE grant that Lori had mentioned. You can go to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about IUSE at a glance. So it stands for Improving Undergraduate STEM Education, and it comes under the Directorate of STEM Education, or EDU. The goal is to advance innovation and evidence-based improvement in undergraduate STEM teaching and learning. They have two tracks. One is engage student learning, which really is how are you targeting the students directly through your proposed project. And then they have another track, which is institutional and community transformation, which could be more broader at the administrative level or even at the faculty level. And then we wanted to bring your attention to a few deadlines. So there's level 1 proposals, which are typically pilot projects or exploratory ideas that you might be proposing, which typically have deadlines in mid-January. Again, like Lori mentioned, you'll really want to keep track of that solicitation to see when those deadlines are exactly. And then there's levels 2 and 3. Level 2 is for expansion projects, which means larger scale testing or disseminating across different audiences, not just in your local context, but to other schools perhaps. And then level 3, which includes institutional transformation. So you're really looking at broader systemic change across different institutions, across two-year institutions, things like that. And those typically have deadlines of in early December. So here you really want to plan backwards. You want to give yourself at least 3 to 6 months for proposal development, institutional approvals. One thing about NSF grants is that they have a lot of different paperwork, a lot of different approvals that are necessary just to submit your proposal, whether you get funded or not. Just to get to that stage, there's a lot of steps that are necessary. So those months are definitely needed, if not a full year, to work on your grant. And then at the bottom here, we just have the hard link to the NSF 23-510 solicitation that you can review to see what the upcoming deadlines are, and just take a deeper look at what types of grants, what types of proposals would fit into this solicitation. You can go to the next slide. So the STEM disciplines in IUSE, all NSF supported STEM fields are eligible for the IUSE grant. So that includes biological sciences, engineering, computer and information science, math and statistics, physical sciences like chemistry or physics, geosciences and environmental sciences, and interdisciplinary or STEM education research. But what's really important here is that you really link to improving undergraduate teaching or learning within these fields. You're not just proposing research that's related to these disciplines, but really about the education aspect of it, whether you're going to be changing your teaching methods or helping students learn in a different way. That's really what's emphasized in the IUSE solicitation. Go to the next slide. So what projects are typically supported by IUSE? They'll typically support the development or testing of new instructional strategies, curriculum models, or course designs in STEM, research on STEM learning, teaching effectiveness, or faculty professional development, departmental or institutional reforms that enhance student success or equity in STEM pathways, again, emphasizing all students here, and then creation or evaluation of STEM education tools, technologies, or assessments. So here, again, really emphasizing your teaching methods, what you're changing at that level, whether it's the faculty, whether it's the institutional systems and things like that. That's really what IUSE targets. But what's not supported are scholarships, stipends, or fellowships for students. If you're interested in that, you can look at the STEM that Lori mentioned, or NSF scholarships in STEM, or projects that are mainly focused on K through 12 education. Again, there's the DRK 12 program that Lori mentioned, and then the basic disciplinary research. Like I said before, if you don't have an education or learning component, then IUSE is not for you. And the other thing that IUSE doesn't support is just infrastructure related requests, whether it's lab equipment or things like that, without some aspect of a new instructional innovation that you're trying to propose. You can go to the next slide. So the IUSE solicitation really emphasizes rigorous educational research. You really should be talking about how you're contributing to the knowledge base of STEM teaching and learning. You should ground your research questions and interventions in existing and established theories and conceptual frameworks. You really should outline your clear methods of studying learning outcomes, instructional change, or student engagement with a really solid methodology and evidence. So that can be through a few different approaches, whether it's quantitative, qualitative, or mixed method studies. And then you really want to say how you're going to disseminate those findings and how those findings are generalizable beyond just your local context. So whether it's sharing through journal articles, conference presentations, or creating some sort of open access resource for other schools or other contexts to be able to participate in, that's really important for the IUSE solicitation. You can go to the next slide. So there's a few different approaches. So just want to refresh your memory. For quantitative approaches, you're mainly looking at numerical data, whether it's test scores or retention rates before and after you propose a new teaching method. Qualitative, which would incorporate interviews of your students or your faculty members about classroom experiences, or mixed method study, which would use surveys and interviews to study your context that you'll be proposing. And go to the next slide. So here, after I shared a little bit about the IU solicitation, we wanted to see how you would be feeling about applying for NSF funding, whether it's a little intimidated, overwhelmed, excited, looking forward to learning more, or you're just thrilled, bring it on. So Sal, if you can get that poll up, that would be great. I'm seeing a good mix of people who are really excited, so that is good to hear and see. And intimidation is definitely warranted given the fact that there's so much information within the NSF solicitations that we have to keep track of. So I definitely understand that. We hope that this is one little baby step towards feeling a little bit less scared about the whole process. Okay, so I think we have a good participation here. So I'm really excited to see that so many people are excited. And to share a little bit more, I'm going to pass it over to Ana Tanguma Gallegos, my colleague. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Nithya. And we can move to the next slide. Great. So thank you, Nithya. When writing a proposal, it's important to approach it as well-structured research study with a clear hypothesis, strong evidence to support your design, and data testing outcomes. Below are 6 strategies to consider when writing an IUSE proposal. So the first one is framing your proposal, your project, with a hypothesis-driven and evidence-based. You want to make sure you're grounding your empirical study and you use a valid framework. And those 2 types of the 1 and 2 are part of an intellectual merit. 3 is you want to ensure that you identified a gap in the literature and you're also producing generalizable knowledge for others to use or to test and to apply for their own work. That's considered broader impacts. So when you heard Lori speak of the intellectual merit and broader impact, those are 2 critical pieces within your proposal. Again, number 4 is you want to test or use existing framework to demonstrate your broader impact. And then 5 is to also, and 6 is to also have a baseline data for your classroom, if you have baseline data for your classroom, and to use surveys and to streamline your data collection and your mechanisms in a way where everyone gets served, even your institution and your students overall. So those are the strategies. So we'll go to the next slide. So today I want to pose an example. Let's say I'm a faculty member at B College and I'm applying for an IUSE proposal. I have selected track 1, level 1, adapting the existing teaching method at B College student population to increase student persistence in STEM. My project title is STEM at B College, a 2-year community college. And my purpose is to explore how experiential learning programs implemented in undergrad STEM classrooms at B College affect students' sense of belonging and perceived workforce readiness. Next slide. Oh, yeah, stay on that one. To support my project as a faculty, I've selected the theoretical framework, the sense of belonging, and I will use a valid survey instrument to measure key outcomes. During my time at B College, I collected data from students in STEM degree programs, examining retention pathways, and I was granted access to the institution's STEM course survey for additional insight. Next slide. As I develop the project design section for my proposal, I want to clearly explain how I will carry out the project, outlining strategies, activities, data collection, methods, and supporting evidence that demonstrates the idea in both well thought out and feasible design. Listed on this list here, I will administer a professional development session to help faculty bring experiential learning strategies into their classroom. I will also guide them on how to measure key outcomes such as student sense of belonging, engagement, and connect to their STEM fields. I plan to conduct a longitudinal study that follows undergrad students from the beginning to the end of their degree program. After each experiential learning activity, I will use a pre and post survey to track changes in students' engagement and their likelihood to stay in their programs. With the support of the research and data management team at my institution at B College, I will monitor a year-over-year retention rate at B College from, let's say, 2016 to 2030 to gain a deeper understanding of what's happening in the classroom. I'm also going to use a mixed method approach combined with student survey and faculty interviews to capture both numbers and narratives. And as you can see on the slide here, I have shared my research question with all of you. Next slide. When I think about the intellectual merit of my project, and is stated here in the slide, as you can see, I will focus on building an empirical understanding of how experiential learning influences the student's sense of belonging in undergrad STEM classrooms. By studying this relationship, I hope to contribute to new insights to the body of research in STEM education at two-year community college. As we all know, this space still needs more evidence-based studies. On the broader impact side, my goal is to strengthen education practices that will help students feel that they belong in STEM, that meaning creating in classroom experience that not only supports learning, but also builds confidence in the workforce readiness. Ultimately, I want this work to help increase participants in the STEM workforce, especially among students who must have previously feel disconnected, underprepared, or uncertain about their place in the STEM careers. Next slide. The HSI STEM Hub offers various resources that can give you access and usage here today. Through the Center for Broadening Participation in STEM, we've created a repository. And when you get these slides, you can link on the repository and sign up. It's open to anyone. Please visit our CBP STEM New York Hub website for more information and also gather these slides. And then also check out the New York Hub HSI Hub that we have available. And if you wanted to be added to the email list, please contact Mary. Her link is there on the website, and she's probably put that in the chat too. And then I would like to pass it over to, turn it over to Pamela, as she will discuss the Mentor Connect program and the ATE program. Pamela?
Thank you, Anna. I'm going to share some information about ATE funding and services Mentor Connect provides that might help you. Next. The mission of ATE funding is very simple. It's the education of technicians for the high technology fields that drive our nation's economy. If you look at the words carefully, it's technicians and it's to drive the nation's economy. ATE is specifically for two-year colleges, and it is for your career programs. That means students who are going to earn an AAS or similar degree, a diploma or certificate, and that when they finish, they would be getting a job that meets employer needs in your service area. This is not for college transfer. Articulation might be something your program does, but it cannot be the purpose of the funding. Funding is to provide graduates to meet employer needs to be able to get jobs. Next. The focus areas are really broad, and this is some of the items that could be included, but it isn't limited to it. For example, you might be doing program development and improvement. You might be doing curriculum and education materials development, professional development for educators, instrumentation, and again, the same as was mentioned for IUSE. If you're buying equipment or instrumentation, it has to be part of an overall plan for how you're going to be updating your curriculum or changing what your students are going to do. An example I always think of with this is an automotive program, and you wanted to embed some hybrid vehicle classes within it. Well, that means the faculty are going to have to learn how to work on the hybrid cars. You're going to have to probably buy a hybrid vehicle for them to work on. You're going to have to update your curriculum, and you're probably going to adapt and implement things other people are doing at colleges excuse me, because you are not the first college who is going to incorporate hybrid into your automotive. I have to say the business and entrepreneurial skills development, I haven't seen and cannot give you an example of a successful proposal for that because you have to show that there's an employer need for what you're doing. And it's harder to show that there's an employer need for entrepreneurial students. So someone's going to have that, but I haven't found one yet. And all of this does do leadership capacity building for faculty. If you're going to write a proposal and then serve as PI or co-PI, you are going to develop your leadership skills. Next. If you have CTE or what I used to call Perkins funding, it's probably included, and this would be things like advanced manufacturing, agriculture, energy, engineering technologies, information technologies, micro and nanotechnologies, security, geospatial, and autonomous emerging technologies. And there are new things coming out all the time, so you might not exactly match this, but remember the bottom one is emerging technologies, so it will probably come under this umbrella. Next. I think this is the third time it's been mentioned, but do read the solicitation carefully. In the case of ATE, it is 24-584, and it's going to give you some really specific items of what you can and cannot include within ATE. And as Lori said, I cannot think of anything worse than submitting a proposal, working on it, getting everything done, and then having it declined because you did not meet the solicitation requirements. And so you want to get input before you submit it. The ATE is due on the first Thursday of October. Next. When you read the solicitation, you could see things that are specifically excluded from ATE funding. One is scholarships. You cannot use funds for scholarships. Again, the STEM program would provide that. Sometimes you might have students who are going to help with your proposal. For example, I had ambassadors for my program, and we did give them a stipend, but it was not a scholarship or linked in any way to their coursework. You cannot ask for funding for general STEM education. You have to identify the programs you're going to be working for and what you're going to do. So you can't say all of our computer programs need something. You have to say within it, name the major and what you're going to have for it. Your ATE cannot focus on transfer programs. It is, it's just not for a transfer program for articulation. And probably one of the biggest things is that NSF does not include health, veterinary, or medical technician programs. The NIH funds these programs, and so they are not included here. And again, these are not equipment grants. So although you can include some equipment, some are specifically prohibited in the solicitation. And the biggest example is if you wanted for outreach to have a van that you equip to take out to high schools to show them what you're doing and get student interest, might be a really good thing, but it is not included in ATE funding and in fact is specifically prohibited. Next. So, what do you need to get started? You really need the idea for enhancing your technician education. You do have to have a desire to make a difference, and you have to have industry need for the completers of your targeted education program. And this is a really great time to think outside the box. What does your college and your program need to provide a more skilled technicians in your identified programs? When I was a computer instructor, I had 3 grants that focused on recruitment. Now, we had really good programs. We really did not need any curriculum updates, but we did not have enough students. So our grants focused on recruiting more students, both high school students and non-traditional students. We focused on how we were going to recruit them and meet industry demand because 7 programs that we identified at our college had low enrollments but high demand in the market. And then our second part of the grant focus was once we got them in, how did we keep them? If you look at retention of the number of students you have in your first introductory courses and how many graduate 2 years later, we suffer a lot of attrition at 2-year colleges. Now, some of it is because we're open door enrollment, but we wanted to look and say, what could we do to improve our retention? So our entire focus of our grants was on recruitment because that is how we were going to meet industry needs, was by having more students in our program. Next. Once you have the idea, you might be going, okay, I have an idea, but I've never written an ATE grant before. Of the survey we did a little bit ago, about half of you are going, okay, I'm feeling a little bit intimidated. I can say, yeah, we need money, but I have no idea of what to do or how I would go about it. If I read the solicitation, I'm not sure if that would even help me too much. Maybe it would be like reading something in Greek. And that is where Mentor Connect comes in. Next. The About 15 years ago, ATE noticed that the same colleges were applying for ATE grants over and over again. They weren't getting new colleges applying, and ATE has a goal that every 2-year college in the United States will ultimately experience ATE grant funding. So they knew that they needed to make a difference because sometimes it can be a really high hill to climb if you've never had a grant. So they funded Mentor Connect, and we provide mentoring services at no charge to the 2-year college. We help you write your proposal until submission time, and we also provide support while you're in the tunnel waiting for funding, as well as during the first year of your grant. Next. I always think of my no charge button as being the Staples that was easy button. We have the funding from ATE, so we do not charge you for our services. And what we do provide is work one-on-one with an experienced mentor, learn in a cohort with others who are new to ATE so that you understand the NSF and ATE requirements. And ultimately, you develop skills in proposal development and proposal structure and how to write a proposal. Next. We've been at this for quite a while. In fact, our 13th cohort just submitted their proposals on October 2nd. And so we've mentored 13 cohorts and we're accepting applications for our cohort 14. Of these 13 cohorts, they have represented 43 states and 2 U.S. territories. The 2 territories are Puerto Rico and American Samoa. And at this time, the ones who have submitted their proposals, 72% have received funding. This is compared to an overall NSF funding rate of 26%. So if an ATE proposal is right for you, then working with Mentor Connect can be a very positive way to write your ATE proposal. Next. I already mentioned that you would have a mentor assigned to you. Our mentors have all been PIs for ATE and they know what's involved and they're actively involved in the ATE community. You will get access to our webinars and reference guides, and those can be accessed by anyone at our Mentor Connect website. Although we do have a few webinars that are for our cohort members only that we give not some secret tips, but just based on the time, some one-on-one help. You have access to our online resource library and our help desk support. We do provide financial support. In February, we have a winter workshop that is in New Orleans usually, and we provide the funding for your team to attend that. And in the summer, we have an in-person workshop that is in conjunction with High Tech, and that is usually in July. Next. I've mentioned a couple of times that we support a team. We ask when you submit your application that you have a 4-person team. The team would consist of 2 STEM faculty members who teach technicians. This is anticipated that they would be the co-PI and PI of the grant. When we say that they have to have experience and qualifications, this is a really broad statement. They need to know what employers need. Some of our PIs have worked in industry most of their lives and maybe have only been a faculty member for 2 years. Other times it's a faculty person who had been at the college for 20 years, has a good relationship with industry, and knows and recognizes what their local employers need. So experience and qualifications, there's not one specific item we're looking for. What probably would not work, I can't think of an occasion it would, is if an English instructor, for example, or a nursing instructor were saying, oh, I know what the welding department needs to have a better program for it. And just to let you know, with ATE, there's no educational requirements for a PI. We have PIs who have only had an associate's degree because they teach in the welding, and that's the degree they need to be able to teach. Other PIs do have their PhDs and pretty much everything in between. So it is that you are subject matter expert in what you're going to teach. About 5 years ago, we recognized that it really does take a village or at least a team to write a proposal. So we started funding also 2 additional people to come to our workshops. One of these is your college's grant professional or equivalent, the person who's going to sit and make sure you get all those forms submitted and understands how that works. And the other one is a supportive administrator who can help shepherd your project and proposal through the college. And so this has been a chairperson sometimes, it's been a dean of the college, it's been a VP. So it's really finding out who is that administrator who is going to help make things work. Next slide, please. So, we do say there's no such thing as a free lunch, or in this case, free support. We are going to have some expectations from you. And first of all, you have to come with us when you submit your application with an idea. We cannot tell you what your college needs to do to have a more skilled technician workforce. So you have to identify the programs. You have to identify what your idea is. We'll help you refine it, but you can't just come and go, yeah, I'd like a grant. What should we do? You have to have the idea for it. We also require that along with your application, you provide an affidavit from your college that's on board. Many years ago, before we required an affidavit, we really had a lone wolf who he was doing everything by himself, was sure that it was going to be a great project. And when it came time to submit, the college goes, we've never even heard about this and are not interested. So we do ask the college to be on board. We expect you to be fully engaged in the training and activities. We've developed them over the course of 13 cohorts, and so we know what is needed to have a successful program. Proposal. We also ask for feedback. At the end of this webinar, we're going to ask you to submit a survey, and that's what we ask at Mentor Connect because people have to have them. And of course, we do want you to submit your proposal. Next. The applications are now open at mentor-connect.org, and they are due the first Friday of November. Next. If this has gone fairly fast and you've had a lot of information, we did have an opportunities webinar on September 24th that specifically talked about ATE funding, and it was before the government shutdown. So we had a program officer joining us to talk about it. So that web recording is available if you would like to watch it. Or please just email me at pamela.silvers@fdtc.edu and have your question or what you would like, and I would be more than happy to help you. Next. We have another short poll of what action do you plan to take? Do you want to explore how AT funding could support your programs? Submit an application for Mentor Connect by November 7th. View the recording or none of the above. And I think Sal's going to start the poll. Fantastic. And for those of you who are looking at submitting an application, if you have any questions, let me know. And for all of those who are also wanting to explore the AT funding, again, send me an email or watch our webinar, look at our resource library. And I think that we will be ending this poll and taking questions that Mary has probably been collecting.
Thank you, Pamela. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Hegarty. I am the project coordinator of this New York HSI STEM Hub. And we wanted to open up the chat to ask questions. So please enter any questions in the chat. And one of the questions we got for our presenters is, can I still submit my submit my proposal even though NSF is shut down? And any of our presenters could speak to that.
I can answer that because our proposal due dates were just at the October 2nd, so 2 days after the shutdown. And not only can you, but you have to, because research.gov and other websites are up and running, that they are still adhering to the due dates for proposals. So yes, look at the due date and go into research.gov or that's what we recommend you use. But of submitting your proposal, it's not only should it, but it is that you have to if you want it to be considered on time.
Okay, great. Thank you. And another comment came in. Another option would be support those applying for funding. Abigail, did you want to share a little more about that? You could unmute yourself, I think, or maybe Sal won't let you.
And I think that was maybe in reference to what you were planning to do with ATE. And definitely if you're a mentor, or if you've had an ATE grant, and this also applies to IUSE, is these are communities that people want to help each other. So if you have experience, if you've had something, share the information because people learn most by someone who's walked in that steps before.
And Abigail's shaking her head yes, and it was about that. So thank you.
And just to let you know, Abigail, if you have had ATE funding again, we also have a Mentors Fellows program for someone who would like to be an official mentor of Mentor Connect. And if you go to our website, the mentor-connect.org, there is a place that you can apply to be a mentor fellow for the upcoming year to go through our mentor training to then become a mentor for ATE.
Great. Okay, panelists, we do have another question. Can ATE be combined with internal initiatives to form professional at our institutions? Internal initiatives.
Oh,
Professional.
okay.
Professionals to
Yeah,
form
got it.
professionals.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
To form
there,
professionals.
I see that they, yeah, this is what I'd have to
Sorry.
say with it is you have to go back to what are you needing for a more skilled technician workforce? So I have seen successful ATE grants where maybe the faculty did not have great retention in their programs because they were subject matter experts, but they didn't know how to teach. That sounds harsh, but they never taught and didn't know how to do that. So the focus of the grant was to provide that sort of training for the faculty to help them get on board with what they were doing. In fact, part of our grant with retention was having a more inviting classroom. So I think what you have to go back to is looking at what is it you need to have more skilled technicians. And if it is training for your faculty or someone at your college, that is within the funding part of it. And I almost think Lori, who's been involved with an ATE grant, looks like she wants to add something to that. I don't know.
I just think all these programs are wonderful as we help each other and we learn from each other. I think I did the Mentor Connect maybe 5 years ago, and I still text my buddies from Interconnect, one of whom is now Pam. There's just so much. And, what's nice about the community college group is that we all help each other. We're a lot less competitive than the other institutions, and we just help each other. But Mary, I think we just have 2 more minutes. So how do people find out about, following up with a New York hub? We know how to follow up with Pam. That's wonderful for Mentor Connect. That's great. But how do they follow up with you?
Great. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, everyone. So please reach out. I'll put the group email address again it's in the chat, but it's a little bit higher up on the screen. And you don't have to live or work in New York State to receive our resources. So I can add you to our email list. And I did just want to say, I know we're running out of time, but we have such a great amount of people here. There's some from University of Nevada, Las Vegas, Juanita Hinojosa. I didn't get to name everyone that's here, but I just want to share that we've got people from out west, people from New York, people from Texas, and I'm just really thrilled that you could all make it. So let's go to the next slide. So I'll send it back to Lori Miller.
All right, great. So we've got our last poll question. As a result of this webinar, Sal, could you bring up the poll? And then we're going to also have a survey that we'd really like to get your feedback, because our goal is to keep making this open for everyone. Are you better informed about NSF funding opportunities available to your college? Do you feel like you're more aware of mentoring programs? You can answer yes to all of these, by the way. Do you feel more informed about turning a STEM idea into an NSF proposal? And it looks like we are getting great responses. So it looks like we achieved our learning outcome for today. Let's go to the next slide while this is coming up. And would you please just scan in the QR code? It'll take maybe 2 minutes of your time to give us feedback on today's webinar. We really would appreciate getting that feedback. As I said, we always want to become better and better at what we're doing. Remember, if you're interested in a technician education proposal, Mentor Connect is there for you. If you're part of the SUNY and CUNY hub and institutions, including our own Westchester Community College, faculty, you can apply for the next cohort of New York HSI hubs that will come up. So main thing, either case, talk to your dean and say, I want to do this. I want to start doing my research now. We want to thank you all for doing that. I hope you're all taking the survey, and we just want to thank you all for being part of today's webinar. And we all hope that we helped you get a little bit closer to the path of getting an NSF grant for your own institution. Dr. Moretz, did you want to say any closing notes?
I'll just reiterate, thank you all for joining us, and thank you to our presenters. And I'd also like to remind you to be on our mailing list and keep an eye out. We'll be having another webinar in December, and that is going to be on AI. It's somebody who has an NSF grant dealing with AI. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.